So I think the last time we talked, or maybe the time before, I gave you a little grief for you Babe Ruthian, you called your shot with 11-11-22 really far in advance.
I did.
And I think we were having a little fun about that before the delay. So, I mean, it's good. We want a better game. We don't want, you to just make the date just for the sake of making the date. So just out of curiosity, like, how has the extra time been spent specifically with Starfield?
Well, look, it's just such a big game. And as you do these things, you do your best as it comes to release dates and projections. But given the scale of it, if one thing is off that by a percentage, that can escalate quickly to more time. And we've really spent it most of this year playing the game a ton, over and over, and making sure that it's balanced, it's as fun as possible, honing systems and interface. Obviously, bug fixing and all of those things, performance, and really getting it where...
yeah, they showed at the beginning.
Really, sure and solid on what we're putting.
Yeah, it's the beginning of the showcase.
Performance, Xbox gamers went through a little unpleasant surprise with the last big Bethesda exclusive not too long ago with Redfall, and that maybe not performing on console on the Series X, kind of how we'd hoped. So I think really all we're looking for is not necessarily everything's got to be 4K 60 or 120 frames, but just kind of...
Here it is.
Nobody likes surprise.
But I like this. I do like how he answers this.
The game that they're going to buy, how it performs, how it feels. Now, your games have always...
See by his face, too. He's just like...
Boundary pushing, envelope pushing.
We'll get this out of the way now.
Worlds. They've been 30 frames per second on console traditionally. So I'm going to turn it over for you for a second here. Just lay out, just so that nobody's surprised come September 6th. Sure. What are we looking at?
Sure.
If I'm going to play this on a Series X, or even if you want to mention Series S as well, like, what's the experience going to be, technically speaking?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. I think it'll come as no surprise, given our previous games. What we go for are always these huge open worlds, fully dynamic, hyper detail, where anything can happen, and we do want to do that. It's 4K in the X, it's 1440 on the S. We do lock it at 30 because we want that fidelity. We want all that stuff. We don't want to sacrifice any of it. Fortunately, in this one, we've got it running great. It's often running way above that. Sometimes it's 60. But on the consoles, we do lock it because we prefer the consistency.
Yeah.
Right? You're not even thinking about it. And we don't ever want to sacrifice.
So that's what's interesting. So when it's not capped at 60, they can get it to hit, or when it's not capped at 30, they can get it to hit 60 on the Xboxes, like on the consoles. They can get it, and so it's variable frame rate. So with variable frame rate, they can get it to hit 60, but they're capping it at 30 and using the overhead to process the rest of the game. And that is where I think it is okay. It is okay in this situation to cap it at 30 if you are utilizing the processing power to basically make the game run as smooth as possible. So it will be like the best 30 FPS that you've ever experienced. And because of that is the only thing. If they're able to make it a very smooth experience, I think 30 FPS isn't going to break the game. It isn't going to make or break the game. And when you look back at, again, Oblivion, Skyrim, Fallout 4, Fallout 3, I hate mentioning that because obviously that was 360, but all of them launched at 30 FPS. So I find that interesting, and it's cool that he mentions about uncapped and variable frame rate, that it is actually able to handle it, but that's not what they want. They want the most consistent and stable experience every time you play it, and to me, that is like what matters. I think the bar does need to be 1080-60 for next-gen consoles, 100%. I think when you have a game that is literally has the potential of what this game does, whatever you got to do to make it run smooth, I feel like we have to be okay with. So that's the point I was trying to make in Gilded. I did post all that in Gilded earlier, but that's kind of like my take on it. And I feel like, but him mentioning the uncapped does hit 60, I think is a big deal. So this does matter.
I never want to sacrifice that experience that makes our games, really. And
he's not glad he asked, yeah.
So feels great. We're really happy with.
He's not glad. Yeah, he's not glad he asked.
We need that headroom because in our games, really anything can happen.
Speaking of tweaking and optimizing,
but I think he answered that very well. I think that was the correct way to
that id Software
answer it, and hopefully it's true. Obviously, hopefully that is like they're comfortable
Was there any truth?
They're very comfortable with the 30 FPS.
They did not help us with the well, first of all, I'd say, being in the company, knowing the folks at id Software for a long time, I'm like a huge Doom fan.
I mean, they know what they're doing. That's why I ask.
They're the absolute best. Doom
awesome.
Eternal is one of my favorite games. And so with Fallout 4, they did give us a few tips on how to handle combat.
Yeah.
But in Starfield, we redid the combat ourselves, and it's...
All right, so I'm curious, given you mentioned...
Creates so many memes.
It's going to be just shy of 8 years between shipping Fallout 4 and shipping Starfield, which, to my knowledge, is the longest that you've ever gone between shipping games that
crazy.
you directed.
That yes.
Yeah.
Well, obviously we had 76 in between, but it's something that I've directed, yes.
Yeah.
That is the one.
So...
Yeah, that he directed. I love that.
That is the one.
So, can you kind of... I'm just curious about what was your initial...
I love how he tries to ask this question, too.
That's either stayed true and borne out or evolved over the course of 8 years.
That's a great question.
That's a great question. He says this all the time. I love it. Todd, you're just the best, all right?
The
best.
Longer than I wanted.
It's his brain going. He's like, what can I say?
Halfway through the project, you realize this is why nobody tries to make this game. So it's been when you do these things and you take some risks and you're really ambitious.
He speaks someone else's name.
Windy path, sometimes is how I'd say it. But it is true to the vision we had for our type of role-playing game set in space and where your mind kind of goes. And we want to, as much as possible, say yes to the player. Like, can I do this? Can I do this? Yes, 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 yes. And space is big. So the amount of content that we ended up making to have that really feel authentic to that, that did grow and grow from where we originally started.
I mean, so, neither one of us is getting younger. We've both been doing our respective...
Dude, I love this question.
So,
I love this.
Are you okay with things taking 8 years again in the future? Or
not my plan. I don't think you would ever plan for that. Sometimes that's how it ends up, so that
He's asking, when are we getting Elder
Scrolls? On the
Scrolls?
screen is what you want.
Elden Scrolls.
But
Elder
right,
Scrolls.
You're not getting younger. You sort of start,
Elden Ring 2. That's what he's asking.
Yeah, how many games are ahead of me?
Yeah.
Versus behind me, and so that does start to enter your head.
You know what I hate about these pirates? Completely resistant to my otherwise irresistible charm.
Would you point to any other games as inspiration for Starfield
soon?
Along the way? I mean,
2032.
Not in the sense of, I want to do what they did, but in terms of like giving the player a feeling that like something that a game you played that you really...
He goes back to this, and Todd Howard
you
isn't ready for it.
Me this game a while back. I mean, I certainly was reminded.
Pandy the Skeleton when asking.
I mean, there's the DNA.
Yeah,
there,
best stuff.
I would say
looked it up to, was wondering how close he was to me.
Little vibes from were No Man's Sky and
Cousin Todd, are you older than Todd Howard?
Really, those other games that are science fiction, I think you might look at and say, okay, this is science fiction. It's like that. I think the minute to minute, obviously on the ground, it has similarities to Elder Scrolls and Fallout and the things that we've made and how it feels in your hands or some certain mechanics. But believe it or not, it's of a feeling of like a Red Dead 2, right? Like I'm living the Western fantasy.
Yeah.
And so in this, you're
I love that scene, dude. I love the introduction to Aquila City.
Sometimes that, right? Like I'm living the Western fantasy.
Love this,
so
dude.
in this, you're living this science fiction explorer fantasy, and sometimes that's being on a barren planet and nothing is going on.
Or an old West town, like we saw that in the direct,
right?
Old
Or
West inspired.
and all of that. So for me, it's games that where I feel I am rooted in the reality of this universe of the game, and everything else kind of disappears.
Can't wait for Easter eggs getting that out, dude. There's a question about him in this too, Dark.
In the direct, in the 45 minutes that were covered, a big takeaway for me was that for everything we saw, there was just sort of these hints of constellation adjacent to that. It seems like there's so much to do in this game that are you going to be okay if players
thank you, John. Appreciate that, man.
don't end up really necessarily even paying much attention to the main story?
Yeah, no one's going to play the main story. Everyone's just going to make camp on a planet and not do anything.
Greater pains to make sure that people want to.
I misclicked. Oh, you're good, gnarly.
That main path before they get back out to the
yeah, this interview was great, though. This interview was great. I watched this yesterday. I just wanted to do it on stream.
The menu.
Yeah.
Here are the things you can do, and it's a very large game. Obviously, there's a lot to it. It can be complicated at times, and we have found though that the gaming audience, particularly our fans, they want to have.
Todd, this is your answer.
And I do think more than anything we've done, I really believe this, that the more you give to Starfield, the more it gives back to you. And that was one of our goals. And so I do hope people play the main quest, and I hope people do this, but most of all, I want them ultimately to do whatever.
How does respawn work? I'm not sure. Like when you die, I'm not sure. 16 times more, 100%.
And people don't want to have that.
1,000. You thought this was cool? Well, times it by 1,000. That's basically what he said. Yeah.
The scale and scope of this.
He said, you can go to one system. Well, we have 100. Of course, he would say some shit like that. You know what I mean? So microtransactions, there it is, gnarly. Yeah, confirmed. And in-game purchases, shit. They are doing DLC though. They are doing the, so when you pre-order the special edition, you do get early access to the game, and you do get the first expansion for free. So they're doing story expansions, just similar to how they used to do classic DLC, which is great. I think that's awesome. Choice will be just because you're in space doesn't mean you can't look good. Yeah, they did in the direct. They showed the different models of the different suits. You have a shit ton of variety and detailed on the suits you have, and then you have your clothes apparel that go underneath the suits, obviously.
And that I barely scratched the surface of when I was playing a little while ago.
On your ship, but if you're on
planets,
Shadow Luck, wait.
With all this stuff you've got going on, how much of it will the main story lead you toward?
Yeah, I'm really not sure. I'm not sure how any of that works, actually, Dark.
You probably want to show as much of the diversity and
Sea of Thieves on your ship, but you're on a planet.
Really hard on.
So if you die in Sea of Thieves, you spawn on your ship. That's what you're saying? I'm sure. I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know how saving works either. It's Bethesda, so I'm sure it's based off your save though. So you will just save all the time, and then your last respawn will be at your last save. Because it's not online. Sea of Thieves is online server-based, I guess, right? So because it's a single-player game, it will just refer back to your last save. Vehicles to drive on the planet. Great questions. I will forget to save all the time. Save. Yeah, it's a panic button. Panic save. We call it panic saving. You got to panic save anytime. You go into a building, it looks creepy, save. Yeah. Yeah, it's been so long. No, same. Dark, I had to remember myself. That question through me off, but yeah, that's how it would work. I'm having to go back to think traditional Bethesda games. Yeah, that's how you'll have to do it. Yeah, John, that's a great question though.
Over the course of the campaign, but you can't show everything. You can't lead them up to 1,000 different planets, right?
We want to keep it sort of, manageable. That's what I would say in the main quest. So we hit some high points, but not even, it's still a small fraction, like you're saying, to what's in the game. And for us, like a main quest, we want it to sort of pay off. There are people that do want to come to a game, do the main story, and feel that, okay, I've won. I can now do something.
Someone do your Google thing. See if that's been confirmed anywhere. Because I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there are vehicles on planets.
12 years after.
I almost want to say they teased something in the last year's sneak bullshit thing. I could be completely wrong.
People playing it, and they're still playing it. And so we have learned we need to build in from the beginning.
No, 100%. And it could be a thing. I just don't know. They didn't show it in the showcase, so.
That, hopefully.
They showed these guys.
Starfield a long time from now.
Well, on that note, you guys have always done post-release content. If you've had
here we go.
Paid, bigger expansions, you've had smaller scale stuff. I can't imagine that you'd even want to necessarily expand this game geographically moving forward, because there's already a ton there. So I know you're not here to just give away announce your post-release plan, but conceptually, how are you thinking about it, given that this is like a giant universe rather than just a continent like in Cyrodiil and in an Elder Scrolls game?
Right, it's a great question. I mean, look, we're going to be doing
Great questions, dude. Every time.
Starfield. We love doing it.
There's one that he doesn't say it on, and you'll know which one it is.
First one that's going to we're going to do a story expansion pack that's going to be coming. Our plan is to do things of varying sizes, and we've done a lot of that in our previous games. So it's something that we really like doing. Our fans like. So despite the size of the game, there's still things we want to add as far as features in the future, and stories and things like that. So we think this is going to game, hopefully, that's going to continue for a long time.
And honestly, if you think at how Fallout 4 worked, when they did expansions for Fallout 4, they would introduce whole new systems to the game, like the robot creation, the robot building stuff that happened with Automatron. Like that was a chunk of DLC that was added to the game that had a permanent like addition to the game, though. So that's how I hear that. That's how I think about that. If they do additional content that is story-driven content that can introduce new systems to the game, that's what I think. I think they're doing it very traditionally with that.
Can you paint me a specific picture of a memorable moment for a character that you've rolled that you've been playing in recent months? Like some just memorably cool scenario.
Let's see, just a few weeks ago, I had landed on one of the early planets, and this
is cool.
Sandstorm blew through, and I went to run away from it, and this, ships can randomly, once in a while, they can randomly land, like enemy ships can land. So I'm going through the sandstorm, the ship landed, and I get in this firefight, and I got on the ship, and while I'm shooting the guys on the surface of the planet, the ship took off into space. So now I'm in outer space on the ship, and I was just like, can that happen? I guess that can happen. Yeah.
One of my favorite
what is that? That's fucking cool, man. Like unscripted things that can just happen. Obviously, you can board enemy ships, but yeah, that was just a thing that naturally happened in game, and then you're literally on an enemy ship. You're like, well, fuck.
Randomly finding a.
I don't know. That's so cool.
That
is like that example of something that is so cool.
Are there like 50 of those kinds of things?
There's a good number.
Where
there's
just
a lot.
Stuff that's not a quest. You'll just randomly happen upon this memorable special.
I don't want to spoil what they are, but yeah, of course, we love that stuff. And
I'm gonna recap this. Sorry.
That's the one that I have the most positive memories with. Was randomly finding a unicorn in the forest.
That is yes, you can do that there.
So, are there like 50 of those kinds of things?
There's a good number.
Game where there's
a
just
lot.
Stuff that's not a quest. You'll just.
So having the adoring fan return though is like 10 out of 10. That's a bet. It's so good. It's such a good callback.
But yeah, of course, we love that stuff, and we have some really, really special ones in this game that I think I'm very curious to see how long after the game is out, that people discover it.
Yeah. Now you mentioned.
So that's cool.
Skyrim and tens of millions of copies of that in the sort of historic runaway train that thing's been. I mean,
that was based on I Need Your Help.
Count on that level of success again necessarily.
Yeah.
So what does success look like for you with this game?
That's a good question, because with Game Pass, we're obviously going to be bringing in, probably the biggest audience that we've had for a launch. And so it just makes you really fortunate to know that you can take these kind of risks with a game like this and be ambitious, but still know that it's going to get in a lot of people's hands. So, I mean, I think for us it is that, people say they love the game. And I think all games go through a couple phases. Like, you have this phase where the game isn't out yet. What do people think of it? Then there's like, what do they think of it the first week it comes out? But then you got to think about, what do they think after a year? What do they think after year 2? And so I hope that, it sort of stands the test of time, like our other games. I don't focus on like the number of users in that way.
But I guess you can't really design for a game that will stand the test of time, right? You just have to do your best and hope that it works out.
That is very true. You do the absolute best that you can do. Again, the whole team is we have really poured ourselves in this one over a lot of years. And, you cross your fingers, you do everything you can. There are systems you can design that say, hey, look, this system is going to work over a long-term play, over hundreds of hours?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It's an interesting question because, like, for example, like Skyrim. Skyrim came out in 2011, and people literally still play it today. And then it's still a very popular game, and they released it so many times because of all these different remasters, and people still buy them. So like, when designing Skyrim, it is kind of wild because then it's like, well, what is the thought process of making design decisions with the idea of, okay, well, what's going to keep people playing this 10 years from now? You know what I mean? That's kind of crazy. It's a good question. It's a really good question to ask because Starfield is a new IP. So there is nothing like backing it like we've had with everything else. Everything else has been like a continuation of something that's already pre-existed. So it's such a good question because then it's like when it goes into designing something that is a new IP, so it's a first introduction of this world and what they're doing. What are decisions that you make from the ground level of designing it and building up your game that's going to keep people playing it and coming back? That's such a good question. And I like that. I mean, again, he's just, I don't know. I find that very interesting, and how he kind of answered that was very interesting too. Because like obviously it's not part of the planning process. You hope for the best. You want to make the product be as good as possible, but you want to have the replayability there that people are still obviously a fan of the game and want to continue to come back. And having it where it's not an online based game, that can be very difficult to do because obviously it's a single player experience game.
A lot of years, and you cross your fingers, you do everything you can. There are systems you can design that say, hey, look, this system is going to work over a long-term play, over hundreds of hours, like a character system, versus, after 30, you've burned through everything. That's certainly not the case here.
It's clearly not, based on what I've seen so far. The
1,000 hours into them
is the big one that you've been throwing out. What's the ratio of the like procedurally generated stuff to the handcrafted stuff?
Well, the planets themselves, the landscapes, pretty much all procedural. We kind of make these large, think kilometer-sized tiles we've generated, and those get kind of wrapped around the planet. As far as handcrafted content, more than any game we've done.
Probably is built in for this type of game too.
But just in the dialogue, it's more than Skyrim and Fallout 4 combined. Just in dialogue, right? So as we get into locations and art and everything, we've done more of it than we've ever done.
Wow. Is it reasonable to suggest that if Starfield is as awesome and successful as we all hope it is, that as gamers, is it reasonable to think that a Starfield 2 is 10 plus years away? Because the reason I bring this up, not to bring it back to how much time do we all have left? But you have always kept.
Is this going to get depressing?
No, I hope not. Okay. But you've always kept your
depressing me, bro.
Clearly on purpose as one team. Bethesda Game Studios, your team, and you had been alternating between Elder Scrolls and then once you acquired it, Fallout, and you've gone back and forth, and now you've had this 8-year Starfield thing in here. You've already committed to Elder Scrolls 6 is the next thing. You said it's in pre-production. And then last year when we talked, you said, yep, Fallout 5, I want to do that. That'll be next.
That was more of like a general, it will clearly be after Elder Scrolls 6 at some point.
Okay,
That's let me clarify that one.
All right, go ahead.
At some point in the future.
But
Elder Scrolls 6 is the next one.
Yeah, but if Starfield's awesome and you want to do another one, and the team wants to do another
Fallout 76 too? I don't think so.
It sounds like it's probably going to be a while.
I don't have a great answer for you there. It's an astute observation.
I mean, I'm not trying to get you to unveil the roadmap. I'm just because again, you've kept your team smaller. You have to date not grown a second team within the studio unless you have, and that's.
Well, we have what I would call a full-size group team on 76 still.
Right.
Updating that game, it's doing great, very fortunate. But you're right in that we have gotten bigger. We have
which means more time to play.
One in Rochester,
exactly.
we have Montreal, we have Austin, we have Dallas. So
I hope, man. I don't know.
We work with.
That's what I'm saying, dude. I hope I can continue to do this content creation stuff as long as I can, man. Because there's just so many games that I just can't wait to make content for.
We're relatively small comparatively.
Right.
Starfield's gonna be huge, obviously. Starfield's gonna be.
If we look at Skyrim again, not the plan to have an Elder Scrolls 6 this far after Skyrim. But in today's day, people are playing these games for longer. So our ability, like we talked about, to support Starfield, whereas maybe in the old days you would put it out and then you'd go on to a sequel, now we can support that game for a much longer period of time, which is what our plan is. And then as we look to like an Elder Scrolls 6,
That's good.
that is one where like, I probably shouldn't say this, but if I do the math, I am not getting any younger. How long do people play an Elder Scrolls for? That may be the last one I do. I don't know.
The last Elder Scrolls.
The last Elder Scrolls.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's Elder Scrolls.
I don't know.
I mean, I do the math as a gamer, and it's like, am I even going to be playing Elder Scrolls 6 on the Series X, or am I going to be playing that on the next thing? Because that's those.
What's 5 years?
It's
I mean,
crazy how
that's a really
long
good point. Yeah.
the games that you make, they take a long time.
I wish they did. I want them to be faster, but that speed isn't the goal.
Right.
Right.
Or should it
the
be?
goal is, hey, what's the product? What's the vision? How do we do this? And how do we continue to support the ones that we currently have? Because we have millions of people playing Fallout 4, millions playing 76, Skyrim. So it's about, hopefully have that with Starfield.
You had told me last year that you want to direct Fallout 5, like that you want that to be your game at some point down the road. But now with the Microsoft, Bethesda, Xbox Game Studios family getting a lot bigger, you did work with Obsidian years ago with New Vegas. Could any of the games that you and your team have created, any of these 3 franchises, would you make that? Would you want to work with any?
Starfield doesn't come out until
future
September.
I mean, I can't say never
September
to,
6th.
to any of that. For us, it is what's going to get us the best product.
Yeah.
How do we stay focused? I think there's a lot of times where you can get unfocused and try to do too many things at once, and then they don't end up necessarily the way you want. And so if I look at other franchises or I look at entertainment in general, I haven't noticed like the time gap between things being a negative.
Right.
Right? They can be a negative when you think about it and you make a calendar.
Yeah.
Hey, when
well,
Starfield 2.
look at Grand Theft Auto. Like
Exactly.
That hasn't suffered in the
Or,
slightest.
the gaps between, I think Half-Life 3 will do fine. Right? So, so even in the moment, you're like, how do I bring that closer to reality today? Because I want to play it. Those gaps, these are still evergreen franchises that I think when they come, it's about just doing it right.
Yeah. Well, that's what we as gamers want to hear too, certainly. So Starfield, I played an hour. It felt like 3 minutes. There was, and you were like hustling me along to different save files, like go look at this, go look at this.
Oh, I love that.
What's the character you're playing now? Because you've got the traits, you've got the background.
35 seconds.
So like,
Unless you get early access. Oh, I'm getting early access, man. I hate again. I will re-explain this. I hate it and I'm against it, and I think it's terrible practice, man. The game's coming out on Game Pass, and the games in the world we live in, they're just going to keep doing this. This is going to be the new norm for sure because they make so much money. They make so much money on doing early access tied to pre-orders of special editions. It's going to become a much more normal thing. But yeah, there's just no way. If you're a fan, if you're a Bethesda fan, like you're buying the game, you're not going to wait for Game Pass, and they know that. You know what I mean? So I disagree with it. I think it's gross. I think it's a terrible practice in the game industry. But my God, does it work, dude? You know what I mean? And I'm playing it early, dude. Yeah, on Constellation Edition, I'm playing it early. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Get the collector's edition, and I'm encouraging it, man. We don't get new IPs from Bethesda. It literally just doesn't happen. 25 years is the first new IP. Like when you have games that you're excited about, and you're passionate about, and you care about, like, do it. Go buy the stuff. Go buy the collector stuff. Go treat yourself with these things. Sucks, but that is the way it's been, and it's going. It has to, man. And again, what's so great about Game Pass is when they have all these AAA games that are launching on Game Pass, that's fantastic because it gives, if there's games that you're not that interested in, then you don't care that you're not playing it the first week, and that's great. Like if it's a game like, yeah, I'll check it out. It's going to be on Game Pass. Cool. But it's not something you have to be there day one on. Well, that's awesome because then you don't get into the, well, let me pre-order it to get it day one. It doesn't matter that you're not getting it at early access. For a game like this, though, I mean, yeah, if you're a fan of the game, if you like treat yourself, definitely do it. And I do encourage it, man. I do think I obviously definitely disagree with the practice, and I think it's gross. But if it's something that you obviously want to play, then you should do it. You know, Todd likes high. Todd is a beautiful man. He is a beautiful man. You know.
What's the character you're playing now? Because you've got the traits, you've got the background. So like, what are you maining right now?
Well, I try to do it all.
I tried to
now,
do it all.
I'm digging deep on spaceships. So, I mean, you could say in some respects, this is like 5 or 6 games in one, right? It's the spaceship game, it's a on-the-ground game, it's
and the gunplay looks so good, dude.
Game.
I don't know, man. It just looks so good.
All of these things, and so. And it always is tricky for us to get a good game flow.
Starfield beta test code soon. I'll get them. I'll start plugging my giveaway in the chat titles. Yeah.
That they can weave in and out of them in a way that is holistically creates something, you know, greater than the sum of its parts.
What a view! It's a feast for the eyes. Off we go to another adventure.
To help contextualize,
Not the adoring fan.
Players,
bro. I love that. I love that so much.
What's the feeling that you try to give people with Elder Scrolls? What's the feeling that you try to give people with Fallout? And what's the feeling that you try to give players with this?
I mean, that's a good question. I would say if you think about, you know, Elder Scrolls with a fantasy world, who would you want to be and what would you want to do? We want to provide that.
Yeah.
And then Fallout, the same thing in a post-apocalyptic environment. How does that factor into the things you find, and how does crafting is very unique in Fallout when it comes to that? Or what's the vibe of the people? What are they sacrificing to stay alive? And then when you get to Starfield and science fiction, same sort of thing, where if you were to open it up and you could do anything, how are we providing that experience? And we love exploration, so when you get into a game like this, that's why people say, why do you have 1,000 planets? Because we'd rather give you the option to do that than say no.
Yeah.
And so I think if people drift toward fantasy, they're going to love it. You know, they're going to stick with Elder Scrolls. If they like post-apocalyptic, they go to Fallout. They like science fiction. We hope that Starfield fills that kind of desire to play that kind of thing with Starfield.
Todd Howard, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Todd Howard,
out September
legend.
6th. Series X, Series S.
Man. Well, chat, thank y'all so much for hanging out for Starfield Hype today. I didn't mean, again, to talk about it for literally 3 hours, but if you guys are not subbed to me on YouTube, please do. Make sure you're subbed to your boy on YouTube. Go throw a like on that video. That is the video that me and Scruffy did yesterday when we co-hosted the event live, so you could see our kind of live reactions to everything. Maxbox shut off again? Dude, yeah. No, I'm so glad. Thank you guys for letting me do that today and just kind of geek out and nerd out with y'all, man. I mean, the game just... I don't know, man. They showed so much yesterday, so much more than I thought they would. And there's still more. Like, there's still more that they could show off because I still have questions. Like, they answered so many questions, but there's still questions, you know? Good conversation, bro. That was such a good interview. Yeah. That was such a good interview.